Now, I want to know how many people like this movie. Do you like it or hate it? Because I'm thinking this could be a hot take that I really did enjoy the movies. Even it has a lot of nasty moments that you want to throw up because you have a lot of moments that you just saying why you have this. But you watch the film, you kind of get what he needed if you know what this movie is based on the original book of the Twits. This is from the same person who created Willy Wonka and also other Rag Doll type of books. But interesting enough, the Twits is one of those books. It's super hard to adapt for one specific reason. It's just too dark. I mean, quite literally, just Google it and ask, give me a summary of all the bullet points. You just read some of the bullet points. You just like, this is a little bit extremely dark. Like, I don't know how you willing to adapt this book to a movie. In fact, they had attempted so many times to do this, they just drop it in mid-production because they just could not figure it out, because you cannot make this sort of a PG type of film. You have to make it sort of a PG-13. But yet, Netflix decided to adapt it and they actually accomplished it, because I was sort of surprised how good this film really is. Now, be warned, it's not perfect. It has the flaws. I said at the very beginning, it has a lot of gag reflex sort of moments, but it kind of needs those moments to push all the dark sort of scenarios away or break up the intensity, because you met the Twits, the two main villains. They are truly evil, like amazingly how horrible they actually are. But it's something that, can you make it sort of goofy enough or team rocket enough to make them not that terrifying, to make him easier to watch? In a way, they did. They did push enough to make him dangerous, but yet kind of incompetent. Now, before I continue on, my name is Recho. I like to talk about animation, not just animation to reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, or sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. You like how it's going and like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine if you do. Thank you, because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People put like, comment, and share. Thank you. Now let's break down of this review of the Twits. Now, to describe what type of film you're watching, you've never seen the other adaptation of a Ragdoll, Matilda, the 90s version, the one with Dan DeVito in it. That movie, everybody likes it or a small chance hates it. In the same way, you have that same vibe. This movie, The Twits, it's the same thing. You probably really like it or kind of hate it, but I feel it's leaning to more liking it than anything else. It's a type of film that doesn't not hold your hand, because they show you this sort of dark story about the Twist, why they're sort of evil, and why this kid's trying to get rid of them. Now, the whole story, you follow Nisha and Wapsi, these two kid characters of the original book. I think they're original, I'm not 100% sure. They were never truly orphan. The original one, they just sort of next door neighbors, and they see the Twits, how horrible evil they actually are, and decided to do something about it because they did something to piss them off. Now they want to get vengeance, and that's the whole book, going back and forth figuring out how to get out of the Twist, because they are just truly evil, and adapting in a certain way like that, but expanding about it, because the two kids you follow, they're actually orphans of this version, and they just sort of just trying to figure out how to be basically adopted by someone. But the only problem is they can't be adopted because of sort of how the town, how they live. They're kind of broke around the city, because they used to be very profited, very well known because of their oceans. And the only problem is the oceans sort of dried out, and the people are tempted to buy or pay their bills, struggle. In fact, they can't even adopt a kid because they're sort of scared they don't have enough money to adopt them and feed this kid. And that's sort of the struggle of the two main leads, trying to kind of figure out how to fix this problem of the city so they can get adopted. But interestingly enough, the Twits did something horrific, and nobody knows who did it except for the kids, and they're trying to figure out who did it, why, and hopefully they help enough to get sort of credibility to be adopted. And that's sort of the main full story of the whole film, because it's just sort of twist after twist. It's something that you feel this could easily be sort of adapted really fast while thinking, while actually doing anything new about it. But no, they actually carefully thinks a lot of different things, a little moments that you think like throwaway gags or jokes that you think, oh, that's not important. It is important later on. It has a lot of how they call it shotgun's gun. They show you something and later on activate that thing you show you later on. For example, how the kids trying to figure out who doing this sort of kind of bandit thing. They stole sort of a hot dog sort of truck, and they find out this the Twits. But how they sort of show little things in between, how on the news talking about how they trying to re-elect someone, how the kids sort of accidentally find this sort of machine, they change voices, how they find sort of a weird dead animal just full skeleton glue on the floor, and you're just like, what's that? What is going on here? That you confused. But how the movie keep forwarding it, they come back to that sort of scene, that moment, to understand what actually going on. But it's sort of self-aware in a way, because you have a story with another story talking about it, but they do this just to sort of explains the certain situations, but even that explain why hatred not a good idea to be used by other people, because it's not sort of worth it. But they don't just, once again, I said at the very beginning, put it on just because. They trying to make a point, and that's the surprising thing. They landed it every single time. Even that you think the movie ends, they turn it in a way to make it more mature, explain it, and continue on. It just sort of well thought out now words. Even that is just truly nasty. Even that the Twits themselves are just truly horrible. They explained how evil and dumb they actually are. They're wondering why they're not arrested. They actually point this out pretty well, but because how they explain it, how they not yet fully be arrested, is because how confident and lucky, but also how people abuse other people who need something. Like they are desperate that the Twits reappear and abuse that so they get more money, more power, more something. In fact, they make this sort of almost like a political film, but they just use the political ideas, but never set it to the leftist or the rightist sort of political wheel. They sort of avoid it. They just explain using why people vote for certain people who are lying, not incredible, or they cannot accomplish that promise. And they easily just explaining, oh yeah, people just desperate to believe anything what other people say because they hope they actually do it. It's almost like they convince themselves knowing it's a lie. They use the same thing explanation and reuse that and end the movie. And that's what I mean. There's sort of a shotgun's gun sort of situation. They explain so many little things and they just repeat it in a very interesting, eye-opening way that is sort of very truthful. In fact, this reminds me sort of like the 80s or 70s type of animated films. They're like, yeah, horrible things happen. Sometimes you can deal with it or you can do this. And this is what it feels like. But at the same time, I can see why people will not adapt this or struggle to adapt this, because it is dark, especially with the Twins that you see the kids going in their house trying to find the sort of key to actually help another person out, but you see the house, all the horrific things they have, like they have a lot of dead animal stuffing type of creatures all over the floor, over the wall, trying to open something, and they release something out like a bed, and they go on top of it, and they call it different levels of weird type of torture. They're sort of hard to describe. You just need to see it. That it's one moment you're like, are you sure this is PG? Because it really goes that sort of direction that they attempted to make it PG, but the book is sort of kind of very extremely dark and very well explain how dark it really is. So they sort of trying to not make it this horrific, but yet it's sort of hard to not to. This is the reason why they made him sort of really dumb, but once more kind of comical, that you don't know, should I like this character, hate them? But they also explain, yeah, they're horrible people, but in the end, they're still people. They're trying to humanize them, but do not give it empathy. Like, trying to give it empathy if they don't arrest them. But it's one of the biggest problems is the fact in the book, they're so horrific that the whole animals, people, just anyone trying to get rid of these people because it's just how horrific they actually are. So they're trying to deliver that in this movie in a way they did, but yet given enough humanity to understand, saying, yeah, there's the type of people this horrible, but you cannot truly empathize them if they choose not to give empathize back to you. They just would not learn the lesson. And that's sort of interesting because they're trying to figure out how to get rid of them, how to get rid of them. They use a lot of imagination sort of scenarios to how to get rid of them or how did this happen. And it's a very interesting, very artistic film because it is very, I want to say, indie, sort of independent, who has probably a huge budget because it's Netflix, but it's sort of very creative. It's something that just keeps your attention wondering what's gonna happen next. Especially the Twits are just pure evil, but yet they're not intelligent, but because they're sort of lucky and very accomplished, they're actually willing to be successful, becoming mayors to get rid of the kids or get rid of something they need nowadays. It's sort of hard to describe because you need to see the film. The film is just surprising kind of good. The only problem I had is the fact I feel the movie need to edit down a few scenes, specifically the gag reflex moments, because they really lean on that because it's sort of how dark it really is, trying to balance it. So it's really hard to not fully edit those out because you need them. It's one of those films, if I made this film, do I take them out or not? If I did, the movie being too PG-13 or rated R type of scenario. This one I made a little while ago that this feels something from the 80s now. One thing I am truly impressed is sort of the CGI. It sort of look like a little bit between claymation and paper mache. Like when they have that sort of good close up right in your face, like you seen someone just chin or a hairy face, but you feel this sort of artistic sort of taste, like how they turn the angle of one character just seems sort of uncanny valley animation they have, but they're not pushing it. They're pushing it just enough to make it sort of realistic, but just enough to make it cartoony, because sometimes they try to be sort of uncanny valley to make it more real. Sometimes they push it too far. It's almost a little bit hard to watch or like the animation because you kind of enjoyed the story and the animation sort of ruins it sometimes. And this one, no, this one feels right. Even that the very beginning, I was sort of not sure I will like this film because there are moments that just kind of pisses me off, but they do sort of specific moments in the movie to show you something later on, like a Chekhov's gun sort of situation, because they do this constantly, but you don't know this is on purpose to show you something, or they just trying to make you laugh just because this is sort of a kids film. And that's sort of the argument when you watch this film. But yet, it really surprised me how mature, deep, and sincere it really is. It's one of the films, it feels it's from the 80s or 70s. Like, they show you horrific things, but it's one of those things, it's just, things happen, but it doesn't mean you need to accept it. You just sort of move on and be more mature. You have a very mature conversation of this film that I highly recommend it. It is good, but also I recommend you have kids. If you're wondering is for them, I recommend watching yourself first, then watch with your kids. You think this is good for them. It's one of the films you need to watch it first yourself. But other than that, it is a good film. It's just sort of surprising how dark it really went. But besides that, it is a good film. It's something that it's just, I think it's one of the best animated films they did on Netflix. It's one of those like you want to hit it, but you can't because it's just so endearing. Especially, do not watch the trailers. The trailers doesn't really help out because you're sort of missing the context of the sort of situation, because you see the trailer and you feel this sort of kind of trashy, kind of bad, low maintenance. It's one of those projects you think it's just given a ton of money because it's the Rope Dog sort of book. You think they just did it for the cash, but no, this movie is well written, well handled. The only thing is the gag reflex type of scenes that sort of necessary to breaking down the horrific things of the Twits. But all of that is a good film. It's surprisingly good. I can't really explain it anymore. In fact, how you felt about this movie? Do you like it? Do you hate it? You feel they went too extreme or not extreme enough? Tell me down below. Let me know. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.